also scan through your medium wave AM broadcasters frequency range, as well as the FM also. Um, so it's a little more complete than the Tecsun R9012 as far as the frequencies that it will cover. Uh, but the drawback to that is there's no direct input keypad or there's no tuning knob. So if you're at the bottom of the band and you want to scan to or go to a frequency that's at the top, say you're at you know 4.5 megahertz and you want to go to 13 megahertz, well, you've either got to push the shortwave band button and jump through the band division presets and get close and then tune it with the up and down tuning button, or you have got to long press the tuning button and let it scan. And as it scans, it stops on every station that it receives a signal on. So it could take you a while to get there. Whereas if you had an analog tuning knob, you can just, twirl the knob until you get to where you want to go. Another drawback on this radio is that it has a very low audio output. The volume on this radio goes up to 32, and I routinely have to have it set at 26 or higher to be able to get any audio that I can actually hear and understand out of it. Even with the headphones installed, you still have to run the volume up high, 26, 28, whereas on the R9012, it's a very high audio output. You don't have to turn the volume up very high at all to get a good sound out of this radio. And this radio has a better audio quality as well. This has a much more fullness to the sound, a more low end, I'm not going to say bass, but more of the low end of the frequency speech spectrum comes through on this radio, whereas the Tivdio V-111 it is not. It's a lot thinner sound. It's more along the lines of what you'd call just communications quality, uh, which is fine, I guess, if you're just wanting to hear talk radio or hams talking. If you want to listen to any of the music stations, though, the audio quality is not going to be very good on this radio, simply because it doesn't have that great audio output on it. Now, this radio does pretty well at receiving stations. It is a DSP radio. It has a digital signal processor, which is a little bit of a drawback when you're trying to tune in the weaker stations, because if the signal level is not high enough, then it won't pull the station in. Whereas on the R9012, if you can if you scroll across the station that's weak, you can kind of fine tune it with the analog tuner until you can get the best signal and get as close on frequency as you can, and try to get to the best spot where there's not as much noise, and you can get some audio out of it that it may be low, but you could still understand it enough to know what's going on. Whereas with the V-111, if the audio isn't high enough, or if the signal isn't strong enough, you don't get any audio out. You just get the static and noise. So if you want to try to pull in some of those weak stations, small, low power stations from long distance, this radio doesn't do it quite so well. At least in my experience, it doesn't. It does have a full keypad on the front, on and off, mute. By the way, the on and off will mute it, and the mute it will turn it on and off. So I assume that it's must be connected to the same switch on the printed circuit board. You got a memory recall, memory add. If you long press the memory add, it will lock the keypad on the front, so you can't do anything. A favorite button, which is kind of like a best of the memory. It's your favorites. I haven't used it. I really haven't stored anything in memory on this thing because I just don't use the memory functions. Your 3 band switches at the bottom, shortwave, medium wave, and FM. Of course, this is also how you set the time, hour, and minute. It does have an alarm function. You can set the alarm, it'll come on and play the last station you were tuned to. Volume up and down, and tuning up and down as well. Of course, like I said earlier, there's no direct entry and no way to scroll quickly through the frequency ranges or the bands. So it takes a little longer to tune this one. The on and off from the front is just for the radio part. The main on and off here turns everything off, kills the clock, the display, and everything. DC 5 volts in through a micro USB. Very handy to have. If you put rechargeable batteries in it, it'll charge the batteries. Audio out, headphone jack. 17-inch antenna. It's kind of short, maybe why it doesn't receive quite as well. Handy dandy wrist strap. 2 AA batteries in the back. There we go. 2 AA batteries in the back. Kickstand so that you can prop it up like so. Overall, pretty good little radio. It's $11, so you get what you pay for. And I've had it for 2 weeks, and it's worked pretty good. I put some El Cheapo batteries in it, and the batteries did not last very long. And you can tell when the batteries start getting weak, you'll get a little icon come up on the screen here, and you also will note that the display will start dimming quite considerably. Because whenever you press a button, the backlight on the display will come up, which is not a lot. It's like one LED down in the corner here, and you'll see it when the battery starts getting weak. That LED will blink and go dim as the radio is working, and the audio amps in it are sending audio out. You can tell the current draw. So I might try it with some different batteries and see how it performs with some better batteries, but I just threw some in that I had. I think they were some from the dollar store, some little alkalins. But it worked pretty good. It ran, I don't know, probably 6-8 hours on those 2 AA batteries. So would I buy it again? Yes. If I was buying it for my kids or for someone new to shortwave, new to AM, radio in general, it'd be a good beginner's radio. It's pretty simple to operate, just to tune and scan, and there's not a lot going on the front. You can see direct digital frequency readouts, so you know exactly where you're at. It receives fairly well, especially if you get away from a noisy environment where there's a lot of radio frequency noise. Get outside your house, away from all the doodads and electronic goodies that give off that hash, and it does pretty good for the little radio. And it's $11, like I said. It's inexpensive, so I would buy it again, but it would be for a special purpose, like I said. So good radio to have on hand. Throw some batteries in it, and you can listen to what's going on wherever. If you're in an emergency or natural disaster and want to find out what's going on around the world outside of where you're at, this would be a good little radio to have. The R9012 is my pick of the two, simply because it's a little better receiver. It's more sensitive. It's analog. I can tune in the weak stations where I want them, where I can find them. It's got a selector switch on the bottom, FM, medium wave, and 10 shortwave bands, on and off switch on the side.